go.
Good morning, or wherever you are, if it's afternoon, good afternoon. My name is Steve Stevens, and I'm going to talk about airlocks, also called vestibules. And I'm talking about it from the standpoint of global warming solutions, because global warming solutions can have governmental or industrial or personal angles of approach. And this will be from the individual homeowner's standpoint. What can a homeowner do to improve their energy efficiency and get rid of their contribution to global warming? At this time, some governments are going the wrong way, and many corporations are motivated by dollars that they make out of global warming causes. Anyway, we're gonna do it in the context of a home. So this was my home when I started putzing with it, and it was a ranch home on a walkout, and the airlock has been considered a rather humble thing and not really useful other than as an airlock. Many stores you go in have airlocks, not that many houses. I have to say that the videographer today is John Abenson, and my first thoughts about putting airlocks on my house came from the airlock which was built into his front door on his house, which is in fact the studio we're in right now. So the Humble Airlock, what I've tried to do is elevate it to be useful for more than just a second barrier, but beautiful relevance for the final step in sealing your home. Because, slide, by the way, I'm gonna use a aerial view, and we will then slide, abstract this aerial view to be the envelope of the house. And the envelope of the home is the interface between the living area and the weather outside. A great home envelope is well sealed and well insulated. Sealing and insulating are key words when you talk about a building. And I will just say above and below grade, because the ground can be very cooling on a house. Now, the attic, the walls, and the windows. Here you see my house abstracted, and all the red are where I've previously thickened the walls from the thermal resistance called R9 up to R60. In other words, I don't lose much out of my walls. The windows have also been upgraded to R7 to 10 from R2 to 3. And then by putting airlocks on, you get a whole nother outer envelope on the envelope. So I have made the attic stand out because that's the first thing when you're insulating that gives you the most bang for the buck. Slide. By the way, my attic is severely insulated. This is Adam from Best Way Insulation. It's filled up, tube filled to the top, which insulates it as much as you can do. And it also, a properly compressed cellulose seals it very well. There's air transmission through is very, very low. Slide. So putting that abstracted view on top, back. Okay, with that abstracted view, the very first airlock which I put on was in the alcove for the front door. And we will see that, but then we will go and see the second, which is in green, the third, which is in blue, the fourth, which is in a deeper blue, and the fifth in this peach. But going to the first, there was a front door. Here it's in process. I insulated in front of it with Polyiso foam, and then installed a 5-foot door, and that made a 5x5 airlock. Now I need to tell you, that airlock changed. This is the north end, the front, which is the north of the house. It changed the room inside dramatically to have that airlock on in the winter. It just totally warmed up what was a very cold space in the winter. Okay, slide. So now we're going to come back, and the second, which I say it's got an upper and a down, because there's a walkout on the back. Slide. Okay. Slide. So this is where that is. It had a fireplace chimney. Fireplaces are energy-wise non-productive. They throw some radiant heat out in front where you may be sitting, but they suck in a lot of cold air all the way around the house. And the net is that you have to heat your house more. So anyway, remove that, and then built this space. And there's actually 3 rooms on this level, and since this is a walkout, 2 rooms on the level below. We'll go inside. So this is the main conference room, which is 25 foot long, and then this is set up for a Christmas meal. But then over here, there's another 2.5 foot by 20 foot, and then there's a little airlock coming in from outside, and you see this has 2 clotheslines, and we'll advance. And this is that clothes dryer. So there's the outside glass wall, which is 4-ply glass. It's actually a dual pane plus an Alpen insert of 2 panes. And then there's another 4-ply over here. And on a cold day, this is a 4-ply Hunter Douglas cellular shade that comes down. So there's 8-ply of spatial insulation from outside before you get into the conference room. And so there's an airlock on an airlock with a clothes dryer thrown in, and slide. Downstairs, which used to be outside, is a workshop, and it's actually 2 workshops. Slide. Another one to get the full 25 by 15 feet. Okay, slide. So that was half of the south side of the house. Over here, there's more possible passive solar. So looking at that window, I decided that could be a door, although it'd be a drop down. So it could have an airlock with multiple levels. Slide. This is how that came out. It's got a greenhouse, a gymnasium with workout machines, and a top solar plenum. At this level, the gymnasium takes 8 feet, but then there's an inner glass and an outer glass. Actually, they're triple wall polycarbonate on the outside. And there the heat can come up into the top and then get taken to the north end of the house in the winter through the attic. And this solar plenum is actually multi-purpose in that it is a food drying area. It gets up to 160 degrees. So you could take grapes from your garden and make raisins, or you could take pumpkins, slice it on a meat slicer, 1/4 inch thick, and make dried pumpkin chips that come out as thin when they dry as a potato chip. And you can dry anything else that you like. So the bottom layer is growing food, mid layer is working out and catching sun to flow up. Now, the issue of getting too hot in the summer, these windows let you evacuate that heat. When these are open and the inner layer is closed, you get a venting all naturally by the thermal convection up. Slide. Okay, looking at the greenhouse layer, some banana trees and some orange trees and some greens. Now, this gets sun bouncing through from above, and and that's coming from this level, which has the exercise machines, comes down in, and then this also has a window in the floor with polycarbonate coming down. To get up into the attic, there's a pull down ladder. It folds and goes up when you're not going up to the top. And these windows can be open or closed depending. You can manipulate where the airflows go. Now, up in the attic, up that stairs, you got a walkway, and you have all these polycarbonate shelves. Slide, which are here, and that's the grapes from the yard becoming raisins. Okay, slide. Now, just to give you an idea of how do you do something like this, you dig foundations 3.5 foot deep, concrete, and then you use treated lumber, build a linear perimeter, and then you come up, and by the way, the entrance, that window will be converted to a door. Come on, next slide. And you just come on up, next slide. And this is the finished product. And okay, so that takes care of, one more slide on this. And then as part of that, a deck, stairs, here's the garden, and there is an airlock that is 6 by 8 to get into the gym. There's an airlock that is also 6 by 8 to get in to the greenhouse. Slide. And there you see those 2 airlocks. Slide. Oh, in the one by the greenhouse, this is thermal mass. A lot of stability. So here's the side view with that. Okay, next slide. So that's 2 and 3. Now we're going to go to 4. So, yeah, over here. Slide. So, starting out, I just had a rocky 10-foot space. My setback on the side there was 5 foot, so I decided split it and make a 4.5 plus wall. And here's the view completed from that end. There's the view from the upper end, from the north end looking south, and there's it completed. Slide. And inside it has a place where circuit breaker box and inverter for photovoltaics that are on the roof, 10 3-foot by 5-foot windows, 8-foot by 2-foot skylights, 2 of them. So it's a very bright and cheery, and for the fun of it, I love looking at the colors of Victorian stained glass and a couple 19th century windows out of a church in Chicago. Slide. Okay, the 5th of the airlocks I call the Colorado Climate Change Observation and Correction Center. So it's outside the front door, an outer airlock on the front door, and that comes down to CCC OCC, and it has a bench to sit in. And when big storms come in from the west, there's these 2 windows that are 5 foot by 5 foot, and this is 5 wide and 4 high. You can sit on the bench and you can just laugh at the storms. Slide. So from the original front door, looking out through the first airlock and then the second airlock, you see the bench for entertainment, watching as the storms arrive. Slide. So that's right up at this end. Slide. This was the original view from the west. Slide. And it changed to that, and has a lot more capabilities with greenhouse, with gymnasium, with 2 workshop areas, and a watch the weather area, and a conference room, and a clothes dryer, and a solar food dehydrator. Slide. So to review, we'll just go through quickly. That was the first, and then the second. Slide. That was the first. Slide. That was the second. Slide. The second and third. Slide. The fourth with the enclosed walkway. By the way, it has a plum tree growing in there now, off to the side and hanging a spaliard to the wall. Slide. And the 5th slide, which gave a chance to sit and look out to the west and the north. I want to point out that these are not standard construction in the sense of the late 19th or late 20th century. These have R60 walls and 6-ply windows. 6-ply being an Alpen 4-ply, the 925 series, with their Windsert 2-ply to get them up to 6-ply. So they are engineered, each of the rooms are engineered to have good energy characteristics. Slide. Now, I'm going to point out that notice there's no enclosures on that area. We'll get to the reason why in a minute. I'm going to have us look at from the east looking west. Slide. This is the original house and the added, and then over here the original house and the added. Slide. And so this is looking from the west. Slide. Now, I pointed out that none of my bedroom areas are covered with additions. That's because you need to have, in this country, egress, meaning every bedroom has to let you get out completely going through a door or a window. So this is a house in Scandinavia. It's got a greenhouse on top. That's not legal under US codes because you don't have the egress. The bedrooms need to have access. Slide. This is another example, and this was in the 2017 Department of Energy Solar Home Tour. It's not a home, it's from Switzerland. They don't have the requirements. They had a total perimeter enclosure, very high quality work, but total perimeter enclosure with expensive stuff. And so all those, quote, airlocks made it so that no bedroom could be in there by US code. So it was not a home at the US Solar Home Tour. Next slide. Okay, we've looked at the statics. I want to do the dynamics, so I can call it airlocks in action. So on a 26-degree, a freezing day, outside, in my dining room, living room, it was 71 degrees. We're going to see infrared pictures of this. And then the door from the inner airlock to the outer airlock is 60 degrees. And then the bottom of the outer airlock is 36 degrees. So the house is warm with these layers added. Slide. So we're gonna come straight through here. And we will have infrared here, and infrared here. Slide. So the ambient in the room, the door is a little bit cooler, down to 66 degrees right there. But the ambient in the room is 71. Next slide. That's the thing. Now this is the door from the conference room. And you see the ambient is up at 64. And here it's about 60 on that door. We open that door to go out to the little airlock, outer airlock. Slide. And you see we get down to 41 on the outer door in this small airlock. Slide. Opening that door, we see that actually we get down to 35.6 right there when it's 60. So by having these airlocks, we maintain distinctly better warmth and conditions inside. Slide. So in summary, we talked about sealing and insulating, and we did talk a little bit about attic and walls and windows, and then we focused on how do we get the doors. We do it with vestibules or airlocks. Before World War II, many homes were built with vestibules, but at the end of World War II, all the soldiers coming back and getting brides and having families and not having large incomes, there was a new building theme, and Levittown, New Jersey was the classic built by Levitt Builders. And there was no bonus stuff. You had 2 bedrooms, maybe 3, and 1 bathroom, maybe 2, and no wasted space for vestibules. That was a graciousness of a past time. Okay, well, thank you for your attention. Slide. Any questions? Okay.